Imagine flying a plane on a daring mission, knowing that success could turn the tide of a world war, and failure could mean the end of your life and your country's hope. Now picture that the pilot leading this operation isn't just any ordinary aviator. He's a man with a genius for flying, who has set world records and revolutionized aviation. This is the story of James H. Doolittle, a hero whose bravery and skill changed the course of history. James Harold Doolittle, known to most as Jimmy Doolittle, was born on December 14, 1896, in Alameda, California. From a young age, Doolittle showed an interest in mechanics and speed. His father, Frank Doolittle, was a carpenter and gold prospector, while his mother, Rosa, was a schoolteacher. When Jimmy was a child, the family moved to Nome, Alaska, during the gold rush, and it was there that he first developed a passion for adventure and flying. Early life and education. Growing up in Alaska, Doolittle learned to be independent and resourceful. Alaska was still a rough and wild place at the time, and the challenges of living in such an environment shaped Doolittle's fearless character. He often explored the rugged terrain, honing his survival skills, but more than anything, he dreamed of flying. In 1910, Doolittle's family moved back to Los Angeles, California. It was there, as a teenager, that he first saw an airplane. From that moment on, he was hooked. The Wright brothers had flown their first plane just a few years earlier, and aviation was in its infancy, but Doolittle knew it was his destiny to become a pilot. After high school, he attended Manual Arts High School in Los Angeles and later enrolled at the University of California, Berkeley, to study engineering. However, his studies were interrupted when the United States entered World War I in 1917. Doolittle joined the U.S. Army Signal Corps as a flying cadet. Although the war ended before he saw combat, this experience cemented his future as an aviator. A pioneer in aviation. After World War I, Doolittle returned to Berkeley and completed his degree in mechanical engineering. He also earned a doctorate in aeronautical engineering from MIT, making him one of the most highly educated pilots of his time. But Doolittle wasn't just a scholar, he was a pioneer in aviation. In the 1920s and 1930s, he set multiple flying records and became known for his incredible skill and daring feats in the sky. In 1922, Doolittle made headlines when he became the first person to fly across the United States in less than 24 hours. His flight from Jacksonville, Florida, to San Diego, California, was a remarkable achievement for the time, as airplanes were still relatively slow and unreliable. But Doolittle wasn't satisfied with just speed, he wanted to push the boundaries of what airplanes could do. He began experimenting with advanced aviation techniques, including instrument flying. In 1929, Doolittle became the first pilot to take off, fly, and land a plane entirely using instruments. This groundbreaking achievement paved the way for modern aviation, as it allowed pilots to fly in poor visibility conditions without relying on visual landmarks. Military career and World War II. While Doolittle made a name for himself as a civilian aviator, his greatest contributions came during his military career, particularly in World War II. By the time the United States entered the war in 1941, Doolittle had already served in the U.S. Army Air Corps and had established himself as one of the nation's top pilots and aviation experts. In early 1942, the United States was reeling from the attack on Pearl Harbor, and morale was low. The Japanese seemed unstoppable, and there was a desperate need for a bold move to shift the momentum. It was then that Doolittle was chosen to lead one of the most daring and dangerous missions in military history, what would later be known as the Doolittle Raid. The Doolittle Raid. In April 1942, just 4 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Doolittle led a group of 16 B-25 bombers on a surprise attack against Japan. This mission, known as the Doolittle Raid, was designed to strike back at Japan and prove that America was capable of taking the fight to the enemy's homeland. The plan was incredibly risky. The bombers were not designed for long-range missions, and they had to take off from an aircraft carrier, which had never been done before. The planes were loaded with extra fuel tanks, and the crews were briefed on the dangers they would face. Once the bombers hit their targets in Japan, they would be too far from the US to return home. Instead, they would have to make emergency landings in China, with no guarantee of safety. Doolittle personally trained the pilots and crews for the mission, and on April 18, 1942, the raid began. The bombers took off from the USS Hornet, and although they encountered heavy anti-aircraft fire and enemy fighters, the mission was a success. The bombers hit several targets in Japan, including Tokyo, and although the damage was relatively small, the psychological impact was enormous. The raid lifted American spirits and shocked the Japanese, who had believed their homeland was invulnerable to attack. Although Doolittle and his men were forced to bail out over China after running out of fuel, most of the crew survived, and Doolittle became a national hero. He was promoted to brigadier general and awarded the Medal of Honor for his leadership and courage. Later military service. After the Doolittle Raid, Doolittle continued to serve with distinction throughout the rest of World War II. He was given command of the 12th Air Force in North Africa, where he led bombing campaigns against Axis forces. Later, he took command of the 15th Air Force in Italy and the 8th Air Force in England, where he played a key role in the Allied victory in Europe. Doolittle was known not only for his flying skills but also for his leadership. He was a tough, no-nonsense commander who earned the respect of his men, but he also had a deep understanding of strategy and technology. He encouraged the development of new aircraft and tactics that helped the Allies gain air superiority over Germany. Post-war life and legacy. After the war, Doolittle retired from the military with the rank of general. However, he remained active in aviation and continued to contribute to the field. He worked as a consultant for several aerospace companies and served on various government advisory committees. In his later years, Doolittle received numerous honors for his contributions to aviation and the military. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the United States' highest civilian honor, in 1989. Doolittle also remained a beloved figure in the military community, often attending reunions and events to honor the men who served under him. Doolittle passed away on September 27, 1993, at the age of 96. His legacy as one of America's greatest aviators and military leaders endures to this day. He is remembered not only for his daring raid on Japan but also for his pioneering contributions to aviation and his leadership during one of the most challenging periods in world history. James H. Doolittle's life is a testament to courage, innovation, and determination. From his early days as a boy in Alaska to his daring missions during World War II, Doolittle constantly pushed the limits of what was possible. His bravery and brilliance in the field of aviation changed the course of history, and his legacy continues to inspire new generations of aviators and leaders. If you enjoyed learning about the incredible life of James H. Doolittle, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, History Book, for more fascinating stories about the heroes and legends who shaped our world. Thanks for watching.